Welcome to the Leader's Edge podcast. I'm Sandy Laycox, editor-in-chief of Leader's Edge.
I am here with Joel Kopperud and Blaire Bartlett, government affairs team for the council. We are on the eve of some very exciting events and also some more interesting ones. We've got a pending government shutdown potential, which we'll talk about shortly, as well as the council's insurance leadership forum about to take place in Colorado Springs. So let's get right into the political update. Joel, Blaire, give us the rundown.
There's a lot going on the advocacy agenda. I don't think I have to tell you all that the government right now is probably shut down. If it's not, that would be amazing. But we don't need to go through the politics of a government shutdown because it is changing by the hour. I think the real question is, what is the end game to this? It looks like the most likely next step will be a continuing resolution of federal funds to most likely December. Whether or not that passes with Republican-only votes or if Democrats can help McCarthy get that to the finish line remains to be seen. And will McCarthy be able to remain Speaker at that point? Everyone said in January when he got the gavel after 15 tough votes that, he only has to do two things. He has to raise the debt ceiling and fund the government. And we all knew that was going to be a tough hill to climb, considering he's got a very small margin in the House. He can only afford to lose 4 votes. And he barely lifted the debt ceiling. He didn't increase the debt ceiling by a certain number. We just crossed $33 trillion in debt this month. So he didn't increase it to a specific level. He increased it to a date. So he extended it to the end of January 2025, kicking the ball to the next president and the next Congress to deal with that. So can he muster through this next government shutdown? Can he fund the federal government for next year? I don't know. Blaire, what are you hearing?
I think he can. And I think, if members of the House Freedom Caucus wanted to, take back the speakership from Kevin McCarthy, they would have done it. And maybe they will make moves to do that. But there is no heir apparent who's going to take over. And the House will not vote for a member of the House Freedom Caucus as speaker. And so I think we will get a long-term funding agreement. And I think everyone, with the exception of maybe some hardline conservatives, are going to get what they want. But it's going to be a huge dog and pony show. There are going to be multiple votes. There's going to be a lot of back and forth. I do think, I would be surprised if it's, if our government isn't shut down. Hopefully it's just a few days. I do think the Senate and House and Senate Democrats are going to have to step in. Unfortunately, Kevin McCarthy is minus a few votes that he normally would have. Chris Stewart from Utah, has resigned, and they haven't had that election yet. Steve Scalise undergoing cancer treatment. Some other, some votes that he can't afford to lose, he's lost. And so I think, it might be up to the Democrats to see if they can help support it. But I think we'll get there. I think it's going to be painful to be a part of and painful to watch.
Yeah, this is going to be a bumpy ride for sure.
Yeah.
An interesting twist to all of this is the great relationship that Kevin McCarthy enjoys with leader Hakeem Jeffries. We're both close to both teams, excuse me. And, Hakeem's team told me last week that he's texting McCarthy on a regular basis. They are sharing the intel on a regular basis. He is sharing how many votes they can get for X, Y, and Z bills. So they are working together with a full-on respect of their internal struggles and the politics that they have to deal with within their caucus. But we always like to showcase the bipartisan relationships that actually do exist, that don't make it through the headlines. And they won't see eye to eye on very many policies, but they do want to get things done for the country, and they are working well together, which is fascinating. And we know that Leader Jeffries is working with moderate Republicans via the Problem Solvers Caucus to see if there is a path forward on a CR that they could bypass Freedom Caucus members. And that's the scenario that Blaire's talking about, where, can he hold on to the gavel after that? But navigating this process, it's on us to manage these politics, to see our parochial issues to the end goal. And we've made a lot of headway. and our top legislative priority. And per the clear directives of our benefits executives, blessed by our big board, the council's board, our top legislative priority is to focus on reining in healthcare costs for your clients, and doing so by specifically looking at the role of pharmacy benefit managers and the role they play in pricing prescription drugs. And we've been advocating for several years now that they should be just as transparent with their revenue streams as brokers are. We actually got legislation to require that in 2020. The language is somewhat ambiguous. PBMs have said they don't have to comply with that language, so they're not. DOL is not pushing the issue. So we're advocating to get clarifying language in current PBM legislation that says, no, you do actually have to comply and be transparent with your revenue streams. All that to say, considering the toxic environment that we just laid out for you, if anything can get done in this environment, members of the House, Senate, Republicans, Democrats, they all say it's PBM reform legislation. So we've been fortunate to get our language in the House and Senate bills. We actually prefer the Senate language over the House language, but they both require PBMs to be transparent with their revenue streams. Both chambers have seen passage of their legislation through the committees of jurisdiction, and it now awaits floor action. It's an incredible progress that we have made since March, in just a handful of months. So we're hopeful that this gets done by the end of the year. I know that Democratic senators are eager to run and campaign on the price caps on insulin, which is included in the Senate's version of PBM reform. So I think that might be a driving force to get this through the Senate chamber. Question is, what will it navigate the waters in the House politics? That remains to be seen. But we're making a lot of progress there.
Any final agenda items for our listeners today?
No, I think that's it. The one thing that I would like to point out, we'll discuss this every time that we see you at any of our presentations during this conference, but we've also got a podcast. If you like what you're hearing, if you are into the whole political scene and want to be up to date on the latest and greatest of everything, tune into our podcast. It's me and Blaire interviewing our favorite members of Congress. We keep it short and sweet. We got a 10-minute conversation with the members, let them talk about what their legislative priorities are and how they've been helpful to us in the business community at large. And then we'll do a little brief update on what our legislative issues are at that moment. And we aim to do monthly reporting, but if you're into that, we go on leadersedge.com, find the link for our podcast, and listen in. We hope it's entertaining.
That was Blaire Bartlett and Joel Kopperud, the Council's Government Affairs team, giving us the latest on the government shutdown and all things politics. Thanks for listening. Tune in to more Leaders Edge podcasts at leadersedge.com.